بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين رحمة للعالمين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله روحي وأرواح العالمين لك الفداء يا غريب يا مظلوم يا شهيد بأرض كربلاء ثم السلام عليكم يا أهل الأزهر الحسين مظلوم جميع ورحمة الله وبركاته أما بعد فقد قال الله تعالى في كتاب الحكيم وهو أصدق الصادقين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فأقم وجهك للدين حنيفا فطرة الله التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون صلوات الله. This verse of the Quran in Surah Al-Rum sums up the worldview that the Quran wants us to learn from it. It is something that's hard to imagine. Christian and Jewish scholars of the Quran have been amazed by the complex themes and subjects that the Quran has dealt with. This is true, by the way. Muslim scholars on one side, but the Jewish scholars and the Christian scholars actually are amazed to see a document in 7th century dealing with complex material, comprehensive ideas that you and I can really sit several nights and discuss it. One of the amazing parts of the Quran is the recognition of universal human nature. Human beings share some commonality, and that commonality deals with something that guarantees them their salvation. It's not the commonality that is not connected with moral development, or rather I would say they share a common moral terrain. The grounds are similar. That's why we are surprised when our Western scholars say that we have to adopt their paradigm as the paradigm. Not that I disagree with the universal dimension of their paradigm. What surprises me is that if there is a factor of time, place, and some of these philosophical issues, then we must consider different paradigms. There isn't only one paradigm that will work in all cultures, in all traditions, in all parts of the world. If that were a possibility, then the Quran would have said very clearly, كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. Come on. All people are one community. That's how the Quran begins. Quranic message, if you see the miracle of the Quran, this is the miracle of the Quran. كَانَ النَّاسُ أُمَّةً وَاحِدَةً. All human beings were one community, or are in essence one community. Can you have any better statement about humanity being one? But then it says, ثُمَّ اخْتَلَفُوا. Then they started dividing themselves. In other words, in the divine plan, there was a global community. Globalization is not a new issue. I guarantee you, these are not my apologetics. Don't get me wrong. I'm not among those who would say, Islam said this 13 centuries ago. No, I'm really analyzing things. And I really come to the understanding that global dimension of the Quran is so strong because of its human emphasis. The moment you emphasize human beings without gender, without race, without religion, call them one community, you've already crossed the bridge. Already crossed the bridge that is impossible to cross the moment you create the walls of religion. I'm being very clear. Religions divide. They don't unite. That's a historical record. Whenever religions came, whenever the prophets came, people started fighting. And the Quran says, we sent the prophets, they brought the message, and you started dividing among yourselves. Although all the prophets were saying the same message, you started seeing in them your ethnic identity, your regional identity, or your vision that was controlled by your ethnic and regional identity. In other words, your specific placement in the world history forced you to look at your own community as a distinct community from other communities. God has no problem with it, by the way, I must assure you. God has no problem with it. There can be different religions in the world, but they must learn to live together. That's the challenge. And that challenge can be met if the paradigm is properly set. We mentioned quite clearly yesterday in the last night's lecture that there is a lot of bias. The problem with the bias is that it can infiltrate your balanced reasoning. You are an individual who really likes to connect with the people. The last question you ask from your friends is, what religion do you follow? That's the kind of a person you are. In the society in which you and I live, we don't ask about religion. That's too personal a question, don't you think? We don't ask. Now, they might know we are religious in a particular way. When the time of the prayers come, we go and pray, or we are covering ourselves, or we don't use a language that is, not appropriate to use. All these things characterize us externally as a believer in a particular tradition. But you and I like to connect with the people without any preconditions. Is that correct? I would like to make friends with the people without their racial connections, without their ethnic connections, without anything. As long as I know they are decent human beings, I want to connect with them. That's what God said. That's what my Imam said. My Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, when he saw humanity, he divided them in two. He divided humanity in two. He didn't see any third possibility there. He was talking to us, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib was talking to us. In the instruction that he gave to Malik ibn Ashtar, he made very clear. فَإِنَّهُمَا, human beings, sinfan. There are two kinds. إِمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ إِمَّا نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. Either they are brethren in your faith, or they are equal in your creation. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. No distinctions. Imam Ali didn't say there was a distinction. And akhun laka fi din, actually, this is what I tell my students, there is also fraternity and sorority included in it. We shouldn't think the women are excluded. Imam Ali is saying that we are brother of one another. Also it says we are sister of one another, because it's inclusive in Arabic. It's like when you say Abawain. You say two fathers. No, there are no two fathers. There's father and mother. But it uses the masculine form, abaway. Two fathers means mother also is a father and a father also is mother. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I want to underscore a very important understanding of the religion that you and I need in the modern times. I am saying that the modern Western paradigm is not complete. It is racist. Please believe it. Whenever it can, it will always do racism whenever it can. Throughout the history, it has been doing it. And you and I know it and see it with our open eyes. And also, by the way, we too behave sometimes racist. We do. Ask yourself, if you see black Muslims, if you see African Muslims, that's how we talk about them. There is no consideration of human dignity. Yes, it is true, by the way. We should not be hiding behind our, very nice faces. No, I think we all have this problem. The other thing is materialism. The Western paradigm is based on material well-being. It is materialism through and through. That's the problem with the science. My sister Kubra, I don't know if she's here. She wrote me a good email. That we somehow downplay, or whenever we compare science with religion, that we give less marks to science. Or we have a bad, taste in our mouth about science. Being too arrogant, or being too self-righteous. And so is religion too self-righteous, right? Both of them are competing to win our hearts. But the scientific worldview is based on the matter. It denies spirit. It denies any hidden power. It says everything is planned accordingly and it is following the natural law. Everything is in control of natural law. That means the plants are growing according to the natural requirements. Things are moving according to natural requirements. And the doctors will tell you, your body is functioning according to natural law that has been implanted in it. And there is no doubt, I think they are right, by the way, but it is materialistic. It is also rationalistic. And let me explain to you that these three elements are part of the paradigm of the Western civilization, saying that we are an example, you need to follow us. This we know as hegemonic epistemology. The theory of knowledge which is controlled by my ability to communicate with you what is best for you. I don't ask you what is good for you. I don't want to understand you. This is known as colonization of human mind. I'm not negative. I'm the product of the modern education. I'm proud of it. I was given an opportunity to do a PhD in Tehran University in Faculty of Ilahiyat in 1971. The same year I got admission in the University of Toronto, and I preferred to come to University of Toronto. Because University of Tehran would not have given me freedom to develop my own methodology. University of Toronto did that. My professors worked with me and said, you tell us what you want to work on. They didn't force me in any way. Sometimes those who are angry with me, they say, the Jews paid Sachedina to do so and so. Nobody has paid me to do anything. I assure you, there is no such plans, and I haven't accepted any money. I wish they would give me lots of money, there's nothing wrong in that, after all, this is ghanima. That's how we justify, by the way, We justify bribes in the same way, it is ghanima, This is the spoils of war, We are getting, them prepared. I have a problem with everything, but I show you something. That we have independent mind that God has given us. And that independent mind is underscored by this ayah that I've been repeating every night. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا. If it was not possible for you or for me to find that true religion, that balanced religion, then God would have not made on us an obligation that is impossible to carry out. God never does that. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. That's what Allah says. I never impose anything on you that you cannot carry out. If I told you 5 salawat, then yes, 5 salawat. If I told you 1 month of fasting, then you can do it. If I told you once in a lifetime Hajj, if you can afford it, you can do it. I haven't imposed on you anything beyond your capacity. Because that would be against my adala, against my sense of justice. Allah won't say my sense of justice. I'm putting those words in the mouth of my God. Or I'm simply saying, Allah says, I'm adil. I'm absolutely just. I'm not relativist when it comes to justice. I don't make choices that this is where I should do justice, this is where I don't do justice. If it is Gaza, no justice. If it is somewhere else, it is justice. That's not me. That's what we do, right? If Palestine, you can do anything with it. You can kill anybody there. And nobody questions you, nobody tries to stop you. Because you have better guns, better missiles. Let's see the way the world is operating. Is this a perfect paradigm that you and I are being told that this is what you need to adopt? Submit to us. We'll teach you how to do it. I don't have a problem because I'm selective in what I get from my friends. Even my Muslim friends can't offer me a comprehensive paradigm. It's true. If you ask, there is this al-Masiri, Abdul Wahab al-Masiri, a thinker in Egypt who died recently. Among the Egyptian thinkers, he's a top thinker. The one whose works, by the way, are available in English translation. If you want to look them up in the university, you might be able to see even online. There is also, by the way, a website, al-Masiri website. He said in the criticism of the Western civilization. Most of the time when you read the Muslim criticism of the Western civilization, it is extremely one-sided. There's nothing good about Western civilization. All Americans are sinning. All Americans are, this. You get tired of reading such literature, It doesn't convince you anyway. It simply shows that we are unable to deal with ourselves the way we ought to. That's the problem. Al-Masiri, no. It's spelled, by the way, A-L-M-E-S-S-I-R-I. Al-Masiri. Must be Al-Misri or Masri, I don't know. But Al-Masiri has really opened something that you and I would be pleasantly surprised. Because I know this group. We want to find a paradigm that works. We don't want our paradigm to be infiltrated by sinisters. We have, if we are looking for a solution to any problem, you get 3 or 4 opinions. Out of the 3 opinions, sometimes you might have to drop all of them. Because they don't click with us. And these are opinions given by our fellow members in the community. And you and I know that this won't work. This simply doesn't work. There's too much bias, too much negative here. And we need something that is free of negative, that refuses to see the alternative plan in others. Sometimes we insist that we have the right paradigm And we refuse to listen to others. This is known as bias. Bias is when you say there's no other alternative. What I'm saying, you must accept it. There's no such thing in this world, by the way. If there is an opinion, there's bound to be an antithesis of your opinion. And if you don't listen to it, you will not learn, you will not be able to sharpen your own tools. When Imam Ali says, "Imma akhun laka fi din, imma nadhirun laka fil khalq," he's making a very, very important statement about your universal brotherhood. On the one hand, the moment I connect with you as my family member, I have responsibilities. You are my family member. You're my sister, you're my brother, all these relationships that we talked about. It's very important, by the way. Relationships are objective criteria of judging how you are living in this world. If you didn't see me as a good husband, then you should not even listen to me. Charity begins at home. I'm not kind to my wife. I'm not kind to my family. What kind of man am I? Don't listen to me. This is very interesting. Imam Abu Hanifa has a fatwa, by the way. You want to pray behind an imam? You don't know the imam? You go to a small village and you want to pray behind someone? Go and ask, would his wife pray behind this man? Are you with me? If the wife prays behind this man, that means this man is adil. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala. Look at this measurement, the criterion that is being provided by Imam Abu Hanifa, by the way. If an imam's wife is praying behind the imam, then you should pray without any problem. But if she refuses to pray, don't pray behind you. Why? The wife knows the man very well, more than anybody else knows. Ask her opinion, whether he's adil or no. This is Hanafi, by the way. I'm not talking about the Ja'fari school, I'm not talking about the Shafi school, I'm talking about Hanafi school. Hanafi school put a value on a wife. So she is capable of judging it. Imam Ali says humanity is divided between two kinds. Those with whom you have direct responsibility and those with whom you share a sense of responsibility because you've been created equal in the eyes of God. A Hindu, a Buddhist, a Kafir. That language is so outdated, my friends. That's not a good language at all to evaluate another human being. Really, you want to get angry, you want to say somebody is not good, say, Ana akhlaq khalaj. That's a good way of saying, okay, he doesn't have manners. Or she doesn't have manners. That's better than anything else. But to enter the realm that you are not able to check objectively, you have no right to comment. Kafir language. You know, that's how we say it. You know? He has become kafir. How do you know he has become kafir? Oh, she has become kafir. Do you really go enter their hearts and see what is happening in their hearts? No. If you have no access, don't claim anything. Why are you claiming something that you don't know? That's wrong in the modern times. Maybe it worked in the past. Maybe it worked in the traditional societies. Oh, when somebody, Andarana Gamma Kana by Raja. Or when in the city of the blind, the one with one eye was a king, because he could see with one eye. We are not looking for that, we are looking for a paradigm. فَأَقِمْ وَجْهَكَ لِلدِّينِ حَنِيفًا فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. The paradigm will be determined by the human nature. The paradigm will be determined by the human nature. Understanding of human nature is the key to your success. If you don't understand the human nature, then you don't understand how can certain human societies flourish. Human nature determines the paradigm that you and I are looking for with regard to human success, human flourishing. You go to certain societies, they're doing so well, and you want to find out what's the reason, what's the secret behind it. Or you are assessing the society at different levels, by the way. Racism, materialism, rationalism. I haven't touched upon rationalism. What does that mean? If my reason is controlled by my environment, if my reason is controlled by my teachers, if my reason is controlled by my biases and my prejudices, and can I be trusted? Why are some leaders successful, others are not? Because they are not capable of assessing their own biases, their own prejudices. You'll find leaders who are able to maintain that equilibrium in their own assessment of the others, are capable of influencing them. A leader will not be hurt if he's dictatorial, authoritarian, who doesn't want to listen to the people, just wants to talk. Haven't you seen such leaders? Who always advise you and then never agree to be advised. They refuse to be advised. Imam Ali, he knew the art of governance. This Imam was so comprehensive in his understanding of the human society that he made very clear that which will disrupt human relationships, that which will destroy human relationships, is something to do with our lack of understanding why we should be connected. If we don't realize why should we be connected, then we will not work for it. When there is a problem, even in a small family, whether it is in a small community, if that problem is not addressed on its own terms, without infiltrating the biases, we'll never be able to help the community, the family. You cannot do that. This is what we said. You've heard one side of the story. How about hearing the other side of the story? These are very commonsensical issues. They're common sense. There's a problem. I've heard only one side of the story. I haven't heard the second side of the story. I'm being asked to arbitrate. Can I do it? The paradigm suggests to me that no, you really need to talk to both the parties before you come to any decision. And then understand your own biases so that you don't impose on them. Understand their biases and prejudices and try to resolve the matter so that it is fair and just for all the parties concerned. Isn't that ideal? That means there are two basic worries about the paradigm that you and I are looking for. We've critically assessed the tradition needs to be retrieved. You and I know we can't do without the tradition. Don't ever try to go beyond the tradition. But what we want to do is that we don't want to give it a blanket control over our minds. That tradition would not function well. We can go to the tradition critically and assess only those dimensions that are useful to us. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. This is the religion of God. This is the straightforward religion. لَا تَبْدِيلَ لِخَلْقِ اللَّهِ. God will not change this much. He will make it a universal responsibility on us to discover دِينُ الْقَيِّمُ. A straightforward religion. A straightforward religion is connected with our moral performance. There are two basic worries. seek a paradigm from religion, from tradition, from Islam itself, and if the paradigm has been penetrated, infiltrated by those who are militant, or those who are, extremely self-righteous, or those who are extremely authoritative. Let's name them Salafi. Let's name them Wahhabi. Let's name them anything that you and I might want to name them with. But these are not the balanced people. Okay? So our worry then is, if we were to submit to that kind of paradigm, let's say Sayyid Qutb's paradigm. A major error in Sayyid Qutb's understanding is understanding of the human nature. You want to see the book? Social Justice in Islam. Sayyid Qutb. There's a chapter on human dignity in that book. You'll be surprised. He says human dignity is connected with Iman. If you don't have Iman, you don't have dignity. Can you believe it? If you don't have Iman, you can be wajib al-qatl. You're a kafir. You're a mushrik. I can get rid of you. In other words, Sayyid Qutb did not understand the Quranic worldview. I'm not claiming too much. From page to page, this is the only, I mentioned this as a translated book, by the way. You can go to his tafsir, fi dhilal al-Quran, fi dhilal al-Quran, in the shadow of the Quran. The tafsir that he wrote while he was in prison in Egypt, in Cairo. Nasser, Jamal Abdul Nasser, had imprisoned him, had seen him as a dangerous element in the society. Because he was the founder of Brother. He was following what we call Ikhwan al-Muslimin ideology. There was a fear. The leftists didn't like them. Because they had a different plan about the society. They were fighting capitalism. They didn't know they were falling prey to their own capitalism under leftist banner. They became leftists. They became communists. They said this is the only way to establish egalitarian human society. Egypt needs leftist Marxist ideology. You know what they say? Ibn Khaldun was the first Marxist. What a shame. Marx was not even there when Ibn Khaldun wrote his history. How can you claim that Ibn Khaldun was a Marxist? It's like claiming that Ibn Khaldun was a great sociologist. I know that he studied society, but he wasn't any modern sociologist. He wasn't. In other words, Ibn Khaldun, how could we regard Ibn Khaldun as a Marxist? It's like saying that Imam Ali knew about the French Revolution. Because the French Revolution was talking about égalité. They were talking about equality. And Imam Ali spoke about it 14 centuries ago. I think that I don't want to draw such, stretched out conclusions, which have no meaning. Imam Ali can stand on his own. His fazilat is untouchable. We don't need to connect him with anyone. Here's Imam al-Muttaqin, the way he is, the way he presented himself. He never pretended anything about his religiosity. That paradigm then, if it doesn't recognize human dignity, it doesn't work. Imam Khomeini, when he was studying, this is by the way true, when he was studying the form of Islamic government, now we know that he had also read Sayyid Qutb. Because what Imam Khomeini suggested as a form of government is not a Shia government. No, it's an Islamic government. Imam Khomeini spoke about Islamic government because Shia government requires Imam Sahib al-Zaman to be there. There's no way out. The governance guaranteed by Ahlul Bayt was the governance of Imam Ali. Imam Ali's governance would guarantee justice and equity in the society. We saw that the Islamic revolution in Iran is now in need of forensics. We should go and do some dissecting and, cleaning up and find out why it did not work. One of the key elements was Sayyid Qutb. Because I heard from the daughter-in-law of Imam Khomeini, Khanum Dr. Tabatabai. She gave a speech. We were on the same panel in Mashhad, by the way. And the topic was human dignity. I quoted Imam Ali that humanity is either your brother, or your fellow creature, been created equally by God. She said, no. Imam Khomeini believed that the dignity is for a mu'min muttaqi. So if I was born insane, I had no, fault of mine. I was born insane. I had handicap, intellectual handicap. I have no dignity as a human being. It's not my fault. Khanum Tabatabai was really embarrassed. I said, I don't think Imam Khomeini would have said that dignity belongs only to the believers, because he knows Imam Ali's instructions to Malik ibn Ashtar. He knew about it. He couldn't have done it. In other words, there is a question today. Is Islamic government a kind of a government in the absence of the 12th Imam? Can it claim to be Islamic without proving its credentials? And the credential is very, very objective, by the way. It's very concrete. Are you able to establish a rule of justice and equity or not? Either you are going to establish a rule of justice and equity, and human beings will have a freedom of speech, they would have human dignity given to them, whether they are Baha'is or Muslims or anybody else. The first requirement is that they are human beings. If they are human beings, they have a dignity. How can you deny any human person? But you don't have a personhood, since you are not a mu'min. The moment you do it, you have defeated Islam from its roots. Now, I'm not overstating my case. My case is supported thoroughly by religious tradition. That which can disrupt the paradigm is exclusivity. You exclude people. It's a club. We say membership of the club is for those who wear neckties. So people who don't wear neckties are out. We have clubs in Virginia, in Charlottesville. They are white. Colored are not allowed to enter. So I was invited. I said, I'm colored, I'm not white. What are you? I said, I'm a Muslim. Oh, you must be Arab, you're Caucasian. I said, no, I'm not. I'm not white. Period. In other words, there is this kind of, because they like you, they want to make you white. And how pleasing it is. Wow, I'm white. What a joke. Hebrews white, Arabs white. I don't know. I really don't know what kind of racial categorization is this. Whenever in the form they ask me what race, I said, no, I will not answer the question. I am a human being, khalas. Whether you like me or not, that's how you will see me. What I'm suggesting to you is, your jur'ah, your courage is built upon your iman on the Quran. Please read the Quran carefully. Don't read it the way you want to read it. Read the Quran the way it is teaching you. Then you will know what the Quran is saying. Don't impose your categories on the Quran. Quran ने कह दिया इस्लाम के बगैर कोई दीन कबूल नहीं किया जाएगा. Have you heard this? In Surah number 3, Al-Imran, verse number 97 or 192, says, no other religion will be accepted but Islam. Oh, does it mean Islam, the 7th century Islam, or Islam as an act of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Ayatollah Sistani told me it simply means Islam of the 7th century. Anybody who doesn't accept that is lost. You have no right to include them in salvation. That means what? That means you and I, in this country, in Canada, we have no right to claim citizenship. We are superior to all of them. We are superior to everyone. We are Muslims, not only Muslims. We are the followers of Ahlul Bayt. We have even two other feathers in our cap. Two more to claim a special relationship with God. We are awliya Allah. That's the first worry. The second worry. If the paradigms can be destroyed by plurality, now the other danger that I'm talking about is pluralism itself is dangerous. Because the moment you say everything is pluralistic, tomorrow you might also claim that even ethics is pluralistic. I say homosexuality is wrong. You say it is right. And both are moral problems. Because it is going to somehow threaten a well-established institution in the society that is needed for procreation, marriage. Oh, no, that's not immoral at all. Now we are being told in the human rights debates, if you don't believe in pluralism in morality or ethical relativism, then you cannot support human rights. Because human rights means I should be very tolerant with all the differences. So even if I disagree with you, at least outwardly, civility requires me to show some kind of respect of what we call disagreement. There's nothing wrong in that. I don't see that. But I see a problem here. This is the second worry about importing a paradigm. If we don't work on our native paradigm, we will not be able to solve the problem. Our native paradigm will be responsive to our culture, to our basic notions of human beings, to our basic understanding of what do we mean by humanity. If humanity can also be a source of diversity, I don't think we are denying it. إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ وَخَلَقْنَا مِنكُم شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ وَشُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, this is my mystery. Although I created you from Adam and Eve, and I mentioned once that we are known not as the children of God in the Quran. We are the children of Adam and Eve. One man and one woman. It's very interesting. Gujarati, you say, Dada Adam, Dadi Hawa. What a good thing to say. And they were Dada Adam and Dadi Adam for Dadi Hawa for everyone else. Because that's what it is. They are the parents. They are the source of unity of you and me. Oh, we are worried. If ethnicity is going to determine what is universal, we'll be fighting all the time. The Kurds and the Arabs fought in Iraq for the longest time that we know. The Kurds and the Turks are still fighting. The Kurds and the Arabs in Syria are still suspicious of one another. The Kurds and Iranians in the Kurdistan of Iran are still, if they can get independence, they will get independence. In other words, ethnicity sometimes is not only saying that we are distinct from you, we also have distinct ethics from you. And that will destroy what I call the paradigm that you and I are looking. Because I'm looking for a paradigm that would unite us, bring us together. And I'm not denying diversity. I'm not saying that we are not individual. I'm not denying that we have different minds and different mindsets to deal with the reality that we are faced with. What I'm suggesting is that, and this is what Allama Tabatabai is asking. فلو اختلف السعادة الإنسان باختلاف أفراده. If the prosperity of human beings is going to be different individually, that means my prosperity doesn't agree with yours, yours doesn't agree with me, then لم ينعقد المجتمع واحد الصالح. Then we cannot create a society of, a one society for all human beings. That means we should forget globalization. And Allah is right. If we relativize it, if we say that no, everyone has I know everyone has a vision, everyone, but we somehow need to create some kind of commonality so that we can come together as a society. We can't come as a society if we insist on our separations. لم ينعقد مجتمع واحد الصالح يضمن سعادة الأفراد المجتمعين. In other words, there's no way that we can guarantee the good of all human beings because we are concerned with the goods and the ends of humanity. We want to create a society that will be earning its ends, will have food on the table, will have shelter on their head. In other words, they will be properly looked after materially, and also they'll be looked after in every possible way that is within the power of the state, so to speak, within the power of the society itself, to guarantee it as a collectivity. And Allah Tabatabai says, if you're going to talk about the relativity of religion, the relativity of the spirituality, you're going to hurt the human society. We will never be able to create a human society. وليس المراد بهذا إنكار أن يكون لاختلاف الأفراد أو الأمكنة أو الأزمنة بعض التأثير في انتظام السنة الدينية في الجملة. We don't deny that the differences of opinion among the people are an important part of even religious understanding. Different cultures understand different religions in a different way. An Indian mindset is different than an African mindset, and then Iranian mindset. And therefore, our appropriation of religion varies from culture to culture. We can't deny that. We can't say, no, I think exactly the way you do. But we can say something about it. Din al-Qayyim, the one religion that God wants us to adopt, is the one that guarantees us our humanity's ability to connect with one another in relationship. And that relationship is very important, and it has to be organized on just and fair distribution of resources. We are talking like leftists. When Imam Ali came to power, he was faced with the political decisions of his predecessors. One of the important decisions that was made by the second Caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, was to create a divan, a register. Now, the whole question was, the Sahaba were asking, what will be the principle of organizing this register, which is the register of the government? And he mentions sabiqa, seniority. Yes. Anybody who accepted Islam from the very beginning is most senior. Sabiqa fil iman. He didn't say sabiqa fil dunya. You should be in a good standing of a religion for a long time. Therefore, you will receive a better share of the booty and the pension. Because what he established was a pension system for the soldiers who fought the war and those who remained. For example, he listed all the wives of the Prophet at the top. They said, since they are ummahat al-mu'minin, they are the mothers of the believers, they should receive the highest share of the pension. So there was already equality was sacrificed. A mu'min was no more equal to another mu'min. It all depended how people saw me. If they saw me an older person and I was the one who accepted Islam very early on, then they would say, you deserve a better pension. That was not Islamic principle, by the way. السابقة في الإيمان بين العرب. So if you were Salman Farsi, there was a problem, ethnic problem. Because Umar ibn al-Khattab, in his policies, was very, very clear. The Arabs are superior to all of them, to all others. He was even willing to be tolerant, according to the history, with the Arab Christians, as long as they were Arabs, culturally. In other words, your Arabness determined your full membership in the community. This was not the teaching of the Prophet. In other words, there will be a ruling class who will be categorized also as sabiquna fil iman. Their sibqa, their seniority in the matter of faith would also earn them more pension, would also earn them more privileges. So privileges were not measured in terms of qualification. Are you with me? There was no qualification there. There was no moral standing. The fact that you accepted Islam early in that time, even now if you happen to be a munafiq, then what? If you are a hypocrite, then what? Because you are a senior member. You are an older person who became, for example, Abu Huraira. He was one of the very prolific providers of the traditions. Now, if Abu Huraira is given a seniority, who was challenged by other Sahaba saying that, from when did you become the friend of the Prophet? Because whenever he said the hadith, he said, Qala Khalili, my friend said, no, don't say my friend said it. Say, Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Don't say that he's your friend. Muhammad is not a friend of someone, he's a prophet of God. Sahaba corrected him. So others say, don't do it. When you look at their paradigm then, by the time Imam Ali comes, that paradigm is lost. 30 years. The Prophet died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in 632. Imam Ali comes to power in 656. This is the year when Uthman is killed. And that's after 10 years after Umar ibn al-Khattab. Umar was the Khalifa for almost 14 years. Abu Bakr for 2 years. You're talking about a long period of the state policy. A new person is coming and he wants to establish a new paradigm. This is the challenge for you and me. The new paradigm, should it be retrieved from the Prophet himself or from the history of the community? You see, the question is very fundamental. When we are searching for authentic tradition, should we go to the community or should we go to the source of the tradition? The source of the tradition generates more confidence in us. We feel more comfortable saying that I'm following the tradition of the Prophet. When doubt occurs in the retrieval of the material, by the way, then dissension is default. It's there. You can't control it. Marshall Hodgson, in his History Venture of Islam, he has this chapter on the pious opposition. The chapter is titled Pious Opposition. This pious opposition were the early Muslims who disagreed with the policies of the government. And they included early Arabs, they included Persians, they included other ethnic groups, whoever became Muslim, whoever was, discriminated against. The result was that pious opposition, and I'm saying this very, very correctly now, pious opposition was the one that came to Karbala. Because it was the opposition based on understanding of the faith, not ethnicity. Had it been the ethnicity, because Ahlul Bayt were fighting what we call Arabic supremacy. They didn't want to see Arabic commonwealth to occur. They said, no, this has to be the commonwealth of all Muslims. All Muslims should be participants. Pious opposition built its understanding of religion on the personal piety. And let me expand a little bit and I finish the talk tonight. Personal piety. Let me also translate the word piety. Piety is the good translation of the word taqwa. Spiritual and moral awareness. Spiritual and moral awareness is extremely important in the development of our personality. We are not only moral beings, but we are also spiritual beings. What I want to do is also going to please my Lord. I don't want to do something that is displeasing to God. This is personal piety. It's a personal response to God. Spirituality is today very much downplayed. Yes, you and I should obey the Sharia all the time. We should do that. We are part of that community. We should obey the Sharia, but we should also pay attention to spirituality. It was spirituality that brought Zainab Salamullah alayha the way I described in her prayers to God. Zainab prayed all the time, Salatul Layl. Ali ibn al-Husayn did not abandon spirituality. Under the most difficult circumstances, Ali ibn al-Husayn stood firm in his remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wala dhikrullahi akbar. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha wal munkar. Namaz, salat saves you from shameful deeds. But dhikr of Allah is even greater than that. Are you with me? Zikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even greater than the salat. By the way, make a habit to sit after salat and do some meditation and munajat. Don't run away from the musalla so quick. At least once in a day, choose a time to spend more time on the musalla, doing the munajat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't run away. Choose one time, which is easier for you. I'm not saying that all 5 times you should sit for half an hour and do meditation. That's not what I'm suggesting. Either choose Maghrib or choose Fajr, but sit for a while and do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is even far important, far greater than the salat itself. Why? Salat is done under the obligation of the duty. I have to do it. I have no escape. I must do it. But dhikr of Allah is done willingly. You sit and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If nothing, you do the salah, the tasbih of as-salam 100 times. You will see how peace enters your heart. Allahumma anta as-salam, minka as-salam, wa laka as-salam, wa ilayka ya'udu as-salam. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. After every salah. The paradigm should include spirituality. The paradigm should include our ability to do our duties. The paradigm should include the morality. This was the paradigm of the personal piety.